is quite a kind of unraveling that happens to a lot of women in their 40s. The body changes before anyone names it. The energy, it begins to disappear. The sleep cycles, they get strange. Mood swings. The brain fog rolls in. But the doctors say everything is fine. But nothing is fine. And nobody's talking about the mental load of holding all of that together while the world still expects you to keep showing up. Today's guest didn't just survive that season, she rebuilt her body, her business, and her sense of self inside it. And she's here to make the whole thing a little less lonely. So, welcome back, listeners, to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. And I'm Sana. And yes, as you all know, on this show, we keep mental wellness real, practical, and grounded in everyday life. Now, my guest, Christina Lewis, she built Organic Shimmer from a single closet in San Francisco into a thriving multi-location beauty and wellness business. Lost most of it during the pandemic, and instead of walking away, she she used that moment as a complete reinvention. She healed chronic pain her doctor said was permanent through peptide therapy and Pilates, which we will be discussing further in the conversation. And she also became a certified Pilates instructor with fully booked classes with zero coding background, built and launched a SaaS platform for peptide and wellness coaches called wellpep.app. So we are going to talk about something so many of us women are quietly carrying, or we may be having that fear if we are not yet there. Perimenopause, peptides, the slow real work of reclaiming vitality after 40. So Christina, welcome to the show, and I'm really thankful you're here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Hey, dear listeners, before we begin, a quick note from Healthy Man Payavik. This episode is created for educational and informational purposes only. The views shared by our guests are their own and may not reflect those of the host or network. Nothing in this conversation should be taken as medical, legal, financial, or professional advice. Please consult a qualified professional before making important decisions. We encourage you to listen with curiosity, think independently, and use this content as a starting point for reflection, not a substitute for professional guidance. Now, settle in and enjoy the conversation.
Okay, Christina, I barely scratched the surface in the intro, but I think our listeners they would love to know when you look back at the version of you running the business, then losing the business, then quietly kind of falling apart in your own body. Um, how do you look back at that version of Christina now? I mean, what's the first thing you wish someone had said to her?
If we were to go back just about 5 years ago, um, the Christina 5 years ago versus now is very different. What I would have told the Christina 5 years ago is it's going to be okay. You're going to find your way. You need to go through this dark path first to figure out what your next step is, to find out who you are, to find out what your next move is going to be. I think I was going through perimenopause during the pandemic, knowing what we know now about menopause and perimenopause. You know, that word never even came up 5 years ago. Perimenopause, I didn't even know it was something that existed, but I had all the symptoms. Um, Adding in the pandemic, feeling alone, not being able to interact with people physically, like that I think put my symptoms into overdrive. There were a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of irritability, some night sweats, of course. Um, and I never would have thought that it had anything to do with my hormones changing at that time as I was aging. So now I have this sense of clarity,
Mm.
which is interesting, right? Because I'm older than I was 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, I had no clarity. I had the brain fog, forgetfulness, no energy, feeling like there's just no hope. What am I doing here? It's not that I lost all my businesses, but they were all on a decline. And, you know, just wasn't in a thriving state that it was the decade leading up to the pandemic. So now I just am full of energy. I have my clarity. If I didn't have my clarity, I wouldn't be able to sit here and have this discussion with you because my mind would just be all over the place. I wouldn't be able to find my words to express myself. So once again, I would tell my old self that it's going to be okay. Um, you just have to keep moving forward. Keep taking the signals that you see around you, um, and accept it. I found Pilates very, just in a spur of a moment.
Mhm.
I was on vacation and, just still in that state of no energy, brain fog, not knowing what to do, can't compartmentalize my tasks or what to do next in my brain. I was just lost. I happened to walk past a Pilates studio that for some reason caught my eye. And, I live in San Francisco, so there are a
Mhm.
ton of workout gyms and facilities and studios here. But for some reason, something has told me to go in, which was so odd. I went in and I never looked back again. This was about almost 2 years ago, so it's not that long ago. Ever since then, a few months after, I kept practicing and I'm like, I want to learn more. I want more. I want to do more. Um, and I went and studied and, worked with other peers, worked with other instructors, worked under, very, very um, smart masters at Pilates. I just dug in. And from there, everything just kind of fell into place. My business of over 10 years is now being rebuilt under the umbrella of wellness. Um, I find joy um, in and fulfillment, especially fulfillment, in helping other people feel better through my Pilates classes. And it's just so rewarding that I just kind of let go. I just kind of let go of the stress of the everyday grinding, trying to make that money, trying to succeed. I just let go of all that. I just gave in to Pilates and just um, really dug deep and help as many people as I can, my students that come to me for classes. And now everything just kind of fell into place. Business is doing well. I'm doing well mentally, physically. I'm meeting so many new people, so many different walks of life. So that's growing my community, which is an absolute opposite. 5 years ago, when I felt like I was just more and more alone, it was just me and my husband, and just no community whatsoever, lost as to how I can even build one or find any new connections. So now I'm probably happiest I think I've ever been, to be honest. Um, and just navigating through perimenopause, not alone, but with other women who are also my students and mentors of mine. So life is very full right now. Life is very full.
Good to know. No, that's really good to know, Christina. Really good to know. And um, especially mm, when it comes to It's kind of unfortunate, although menopause is still touched upon in the mainstream conversations, especially on women's health. But I think it's still just that tip of the iceberg. I came to know about perimenopause, unfortunately, a year back, that there is something called as perimenopause as well. Um, to another, conversation on a different podcast with the guest, and from that, I believe there's still a lot of um misconceptions and a bit of disregard, a bit of it just happens. It's just hormonal, and all those very surface level information. And especially if we look at the mainstream, the healthcare, especially common experience, with women in their 40s to describe, and unfortunately there is no name in that. It's kind of a bit towards the stereotypical side also, and a bit towards the misinformation side, that you list your symptoms, you walk into the doctor's office, and you just get a diagnosis, not a diagnosis, but just a kind of, yeah, it's just a stress or anxiety, or maybe sometimes it's midlife crisis. But Christina, I would love to know, and I'm happy that through our platform, our listeners, especially those, I mean, women, and if any listeners, they know their loved ones, they'll be able to actually help and support them in whichever ways they can. What's actually happening to a woman in perimenopause that mainstream conversation still isn't capturing?
What's really missing, I think, aside from just good, educated care from the medical industry, I think we just have to realize that as we age as women, moving into perimenopause, navigating through that, and then into into menopause, excuse me, is that we we actually have the power to go through it, feel better while we're in the deep of it. There are so many things out there right now that are available to us to help us, to educate us, um, and to figure out what's really going on in our body. We really have to be our own advocates at this point. Um, I only go to the doctor now to maybe get, my annual checkups. But on top of that, I also utilize a service called Function Health by Dr. Hyman, where you can, test for a multitude of things, hundreds of things, as opposed to like maybe 10 or 15 that your doctor will be reluctant to even give you. And even with the power of AI today, if you don't understand how to read your blood results, you can just ask AI and you can educate yourself on where you need to be based on what your blood test is saying. Now, in the past, it's always like, this is just how it is. Recently, and this is a story I tell a lot of my audience and clients and students, is recently, maybe 6 months ago, I had this chronic lower back pain. And I just thought I had an injury, which that was part of the reason as well. I had an injury because I was training for an event, a fitness event, and I hurt myself. But there was some other things going on. So I had to go to the doctor to get like an ultrasound. I can't give myself an ultrasound. So I went to the doctor and she said, "You have arthritis on your lower right back." And she said that is very common for women going through perimenopause. And I said, at my age, I'm in my 40s, and we just think that arthritis comes along when you're maybe in your 50s or 60s. So
Mm.
she said, yeah, it's very normal. She just kind of waved me off like it's normal. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have to deal with it. I was like, okay, how do we fix it? Because it hurts literally every day. And she said, you just have to manage the pain, take painkillers for the rest of your life. That is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable. So I I did more research, and peptides right now are having a huge moment. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone is either on it or talking about it or both. And I decided to take that leap of faith because I have been reading up about it and studying about it because I wanted to rebrand my business to include peptides as well. So again, I did another deep dive like I did with Pilates. And I decided to try it on myself first so that I can speak to it to my clients when I start offering it in my business.
Mhm.
About a month in, my lower back pain is completely gone. The injury that I had when I was training for a fitness event was also gone. I mean, it had a little bit, there's a little faint, I can feel a little bit of the bursitis that was there, but it's dramatically lessened in pain. But what was so surprising was my arthritis, as my doctor had dubbed it completely gone. Gone. And, I was just amazed. And after that, I tried, other peptides because I was like, wow, this really works. And, that on top of my hormone therapy, I think I have found my happiness. I feel like I'm in my 20s. That might be reaching a little far. So I'll say I feel like I'm in my early 30s. I have 3 businesses, and also Pilates teaching schedule, um, as well as rebranding one of my business while all of this is going on top of, other things, just life. And I don't miss a beat anymore. I don't feel exhausted. I'm able to build and rebuild whatever it is I'm trying to do. I was able to build an app with 0 coding experience because I couldn't find an app to help my clients keep track of their
Mhm.
progress, whether it's movement, supplements, peptides, whatever it is in wellness. I couldn't find an app that was easy for me as a wellness coach to use, and something that is valuable that can add value to my wellness program for my clients. So therefore, I built it myself. Now, would I have been able to do this 5 years ago? I would say absolutely not. But, now I just feel like sky's the limit, and I usually don't have many regrets in life. I feel like my biggest regret is that I didn't discover Pilates sooner, because I feel like that was kind of the lead into my wellness journey, and I'm just feeling better and better.
Mm. Now, one thing which I can say is big breakthroughs. I mean, they are, but then it didn't happen overnight for you. You had to build a routine, like, the daily, repeated, almost sometimes boring acts of self care, which are not just only aesthetically, they're nice, but they actually work for you. It's like the unglamorous version of healing. And it's not just only Pilates or only peptides, but it's like a blend of all these components, because you are not just only, and especially when we um when we consider our health, it's not just only the physical or only the mental. All of them are connected with each other. So I think a lot of women will definitely connect with that.
Yes, absolutely. So I didn't mention before, I think the first step to my wellness journey that I actually took was putting myself on hormone therapy. I think there was so much, bad juju surrounding hormone therapy for decades, that now more research is coming out. Everyone's eyes are opening. And, I think I was just tired of feeling the way I felt. And I was like, I need to do something about it. And so I just took a leap of faith and I gave hormone therapy a try. I mean, quality of life is so important. So important. Like, would you rather live 100 years of just feeling miserable all the time and people around you feel that negativity? Or would you rather live like, I don't know, 95 years of happiness, energy, community, clarity, just feeling good every day. I mean, every day is a long stretch, but I do generally feel pretty good mentally. Everything, my partner, my husband actually can see the difference, my family, my friends. Um, but hormone therapy also has its limits, in my opinion. I personally don't want to continue increasing the dosage,
Mhm.
on a regular basis. And I still felt like I hit a little bit of a wall after a while, just with anything else. Your body kind of gets desensitized and you have to either stop and restart um or increase whatever dosage, whatever it is you're doing. So when I added Pilates and peptides, I feel like I found my happy mixture to feel balanced. The best word is to say is I feel balanced. Things that used to trigger me, any little things that used to trigger me, whether it's someone cutting me off while they're driving or, a waitress not helping me fast enough, those things are gone. Those noise are gone. I'm much more reasonable and calm in the way I address things as well as in the way I decipher what things mean, like if the waitress isn't helping me, I've sat there for maybe 30 minutes and she hasn't, and I'm not going to take it personally. She probably has something going on in her life where, she's just not there. Maybe she has perimenopause or something, so it's like I also have more compassion and empathy now. Um, so finding that routine, finding what works for you is definitely um that road that you have to go on. But once you're there with the right guidance, with the right people around you, even the wrong people is a lesson learned. You will get there. You have good intentions for yourself. You just have to make sure that you do love yourself. And one other thing is just never give up hope. Like, just always think there is a solution to almost everything in life. And if you never stop looking for it, it will come.
Hmm. And one thing which I think can have like a separate episode of its own is with no coding experience or background, you still um, build a CRM, a wellness app. So we'll definitely have. I think it deserves a separate episode of its own. But I will come to peptide because this is something a lot of women are hearing about, both curious and confused. Because of course there's a lot of information, but which exactly is the right one?
Mhm.
And I want to be really careful, Christina, because here we're not giving any medical advice, and
Correct.
everyone's body is different. So from your personal experience, not as a prescription, if you can kind of uh, explain for our listeners, what peptides are,
Mhm.
what role did they play in your healing, and what should a woman actually do before she goes near them?
So there are some things, some contraindications. For example, if you have a history of cancer, you definitely want to seek out a physician that specializes in peptides and longevity and wellness, and speak to them
Mhm.
about your history, even if it's in your family. And then that doctor will probably order some lab work for you and also work really closely with you if you decide to get onto a peptide wellness program with them. Now, what worked? Let's start with what peptides are because I get this question all the time.
Yeah.
Peptides is they're okay. Let's backtrack a little bit. We all need protein. Protein are the building blocks of what make us human. And, I always tell my students too, you have to eat enough protein. We, in modern times, don't eat enough protein. We need to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of weight that you weigh, especially for women. We don't want to lose our bone density. Um, and, all that good stuff like collagen and everything. So what is a peptide? It's a short chain of amino acids. So proteins are made of long chains of amino acids. That's what makes up proteins, right? So a peptide is basically a short block of amino acids. So it's like a short block of protein. So when we talk about peptides that doctors prescribe, um, it's basically replenishing what our body is depleting as we age. So, for example, the Wolverine stack, that's dubbed the quote unquote Wolverine stack. It is BPC. It's two peptides. It's BPC and TB500 together. And we already produce this in our own body. What we're doing is simply bringing the peptides back and refilling that empty tank that's getting depleted. BPC is I believe the full name is body production composition or something like that, but that's found in our gut lining. But again, as we age, that depletes. And so we'll have problems, going to the bathroom and, we don't take enough fiber. So we have to eat more fiber to help our bowel movements. So you're adding back what's being depleted as you put the Wolverine peptide in. You're healing your gut. You're healing your gut. TB500, which is the other part of Wolverine stack, is a peptide that you found in your tissues. It helps heal and build muscles and tissues and tendons. So again, as we age, that depletes. As you put the peptides in you, whether it's orally or injectables, again, you're filling that tank that is depleting. So it's yes, these are synthetically made, but again, your body understands what it is because it's already producing it. It's not a foreign object. So that's yeah.
Our body.
Yes. So we're not putting anything that our body isn't, doesn't understand. One of my favorite peptides actually is not a peptide, but it's looped into the category of peptide. It's NAD+. It's actually a coenzyme. So it's like a molecule that sits on every cell that we have. So imagine a battery, right? You need a battery for your toy car for it to move. That is what the NAD is. It's like a battery sitting on top of the cell, making sure that the cell is producing efficiently, reproducing itself correctly. As we age, these enzymes, the NAD plus depletes as well. So then as we age, our cell production makes mistakes. That's where you get aging from. You lose your memory, wrinkles, you have aches and pains, so those are the things that happens when the NAD coenzyme depletes as we age. So peptides basically, as I said, is just filling back up the tank that is being depleted in our body we need these things in order to feel balanced. And again, going back to perimenopause and menopause, I felt so exhausted almost every day before, years ago. And I say NAD plus is my favorite peptide because I think that's part of the big reason as to what gave me clarity again. It's like a cloud has been lifted. So whenever I do a consult with my clients, I always add the NAD as a part of their peptide stacks. And I also want to preface, because you did say, we're not doctors, we don't prescribe, which is correct. I do work with a longevity physician, and she's been a physician for 22 years in the US. And the peptides that we offer for our clients are made in 503A pharmacies in the US, sourced in the US, and tested third-party testing for efficacy and strength. So I just want to let your audience know that.
This is very interesting. And Christina, I must really appreciate, because a lot of the significance, it kind of gets lost in the translation because of these very heavy medical terms. But it takes a lot of experience and understanding from the root, if you want to kind of explain, even if these are such basic building blocks of our bodies, peptides, proteins. This is something that I'm gonna definitely retain. I mean, yeah, it may sound a bit overwhelming because that's exactly what I felt in between. But then, uh, hearing that it's not just that we are doing self-diagnosis or self-prescribing, but taking help of the right resources and support systems, it is possible. And what you are offering, it is real lived experience and a very clear reminder that any of this work, it belongs in conversation with a qualified healthcare provider who knows your body.
Mm-hmm. Right. Correct. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of websites out there that, offer peptides at the lowest rate. And obviously, they're not from the US and they're not tested. And there's no physician that guides you along. There's no wellness peptide coach that guides you along. So it's kind of a wild, wild west right now. But I think in the US, the federal government is about to tighten it down and the industry is exploding and many new things are going to come as a result of it. And, soon it'll just be pretty safe to source peptides for most people out there who, for some reason, are not able to get their hands on some peptides that are, tested and made in the US. Um, so the industry, it's a very exciting time right now for peptides.
Hmm. And Christina, I also want to bring in before we wrap up reinvention because this is something you have lived more than once.
Mhm.
What do you think helps a woman stay with her own reinvention, especially when the body is exhausted or maybe, business is uncertain or maybe the easier choice is to give up on whoever she wants to or she's becoming?
Reinvention is really not an easy thing to achieve. Most people don't even try because it's hard to even get out of that chair or out of that couch when you're in a certain state of mind to make changes. A saying that a saying that everyone's heard of, but I really go by is that perception is reality. If
Mm.
you are not doing well, if you're down and out and, things don't seem to be going well, if you stay there and just be like, "Oh, this is so hard. Oh, my life sucks. Oh, I can't wait till this is over." Whatever it is, you're staying in that negative state of mind. You're telling your brain, this is it. This is life. There's nowhere else to go. This is how it's going to be for you forever. Now, I was there. I was there. Um, but it, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you wake up and say, I have to get out of this. I have to get out of this. Um,
Mm.
so again, reinvention for me, like I told you about my story about, walking into my first Pilates studio and then I never looked back. That was really my big aha moment. You have,
Mm.
if you're down and out and you're feeling sad and depressed and energyless, push yourself to go outside of your home, walk around the block, and then the next day, do the same thing. The day after, do it a little longer, maybe 2 blocks. And you build on top of that little by little. Even if you only walked outside of your house that first day when you decided to get out of that couch, that is improvement. That's movement. That's changing your um the way your brain thinks. You know, um There's a saying, I don't recall the scientists, it was back in the 40s, I think, is the wires that fire together stays together. So when you tell yourself, I'm, you know, I'm sad or I'm stupid or whatever negativity it is, you're building that wire in your brain, literally, scientifically. It's really happening. You're building that wire in your brain to believe that. And the more you think about that, the more you say that to yourself, that wire gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And it'll be harder to break that habit of way of thinking in your brain to bring some positivity in there. Now, it's always easier said than done, but this is how it literally works. It's not just some manifestation. It's scientifically proven. This is how it works. So that is why I say perception is reality. Just like if you're going to take that walk outside the first day, just go outside of your door. And then the next day, go down the block. That's building that wire in your brain stronger and stronger to help motivate you to walk further and further. And maybe you meet somebody at a coffee shop, or maybe you go to the library and you read a book that like you learn about something you never knew that you'd be interested in. So it's always hard to take that first step, but your first positive thought and your first movement is the most important and the thing that is going to change the way you think and change your life in a positive way.
That is beautiful. That is really powerful, Christine, honestly. Honestly.
Thanks.
Wow. And one thing I would, especially when you mentioned about how protein intake is actually very important. Now, I think this kind of connects with this. I think this is one of the biggest misconception in many of the countries and cultures. Especially, it's surprising that women themselves believe that protein or fitness, even weights, these are only for the masculinity part. This is not something which is meant for women. But I've always always have heard it from my guests, the complete opposite. And
Yes.
that is why I think it's very important, whenever it comes to the right information is education and diet, health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and another thing, I think it's more about the mindset shift that yes, as a woman, you are there, you are taking care of others, you are holding the family tied in there, you are responsible, or you bear that responsibility of making sure that your family gets the nourishment. But then it shouldn't be at the cost of your own health or your own existence and identity.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think in society, as you know, the woman is always the homemaker, right?
Mm.
Traditionally, which has changed drastically. But of course, other parts of the country are still with that same belief that the woman stays at home, unfortunately. But, as humans have evolved, us as a human race in the entire world will eventually evolve and maybe not get on the same page at the same time, but we all get there. We all get there. Here's to hoping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would also advise to stay away from all the trends on Instagram and everything and go take in with whatever capacity it is possible, take the agency to, as you mentioned, go out or do research. We have at least, the access to AI right now. And it all depends on asking the right questions, of course, and having that critical reasoning as well. But um, I think this definitely requires a huge mindset shift. And I really appreciate, Christina, the work that you are doing. And of course, if our listeners, they would like to, but before that, for the woman listening to this episode, maybe she's somewhere in the season or she's tired in a way she cannot explain, or maybe gaslit by her own doctor. Sometimes,
Mm.
your family members as well. Um, what would you want her to hear right now, in your words?
Take the power back in your own hands. Don't just listen to the doctors that say this is just how it is. Be your own advocate. Use AI, different AIs, because AI can make mistakes. Cross-reference the different AI programs. AI is very powerful. So I would use that over and over again. But first and foremost, be your own advocate. Get that blood test, the biggest blood panel test you can get. Enter that information into AI so that they can help you read it. Not everybody can afford a holistic practitioner to help guide them. So use what's out there right now in this modern world that is available to you to help you. Use it. Use it every day. Use it all the time until you find what works for you. There are a lot out there. This is just the beginning.
Thank you so much, Christina. And yes, if the listeners, they would like to connect with you, explore wellpep.app, your Pilates work, Organic Shimmer, all the places, how they can, where should they go?
For the wellness peptide piece of it, they can go to www.organicshimmer.com. They can also email me directly, contact@organicshimmer.com. For WellPep, that is more for the wellness coach to use as a tool to offer to their clients. So for the app, if you're my client or if you're with a coach that also uses WellPep, you'll have access to my app, which is amazing and wonderful to help you with your progress, with your journey, to help guide you as well, along with me as your personal coach. So on Instagram also, I'm very active on there. You can look me up, organicshimmer.com. Or sorry, Organic Shimmer is the handle for Instagram. So those are 3 ways that you can get in touch with me and get to know about my program a little bit more.
Awesome. Listeners, I'll definitely drop all of the links in the show notes to meet with you.
Amazing. Yes.
Christina, thank you so much for this absolutely crucial and important. More than that, for making it a bit easier in the way we understand, because it can sometimes tend to be very complicated, and that can uh, make us feel like overwhelmed, or maybe not even think about it, because we are kind of having that fear. So I'm really thankful to you, because your insights, you actually made it very easier to understand.
Good. That is the whole point. That's what I'm here to do.
And here's what I'm carrying with me, listeners, from this conversation. And I think it bears a lot of importance for me as well. And I'm very sure more than me, for all of you. So, perimenopause isn't the end of anything, it's a passage. And the women who walk through it with curiosity instead of shame, with kindness instead of pushing, with honest conversation instead of silence, they come out the other side with something they didn't have before, a version of themselves they can finally trust, just as Christina found her version. So, if today's episode reached somewhere tender in you, take one quiet moment before bed, or in the morning, or whenever, wherever you are listening. And yes, thank your body, thank yourself. And then, of course, um, talk to a doctor who actually listens. And that's where the next chapter begins. And do explore the resources shared by Christina. And yes, thank you so much for being here, being on Healthy Man, Healthy Life. I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.